Hi class, I hope everyone's doing okay. Um, so let's get started with this lab, and I'd like everybody to go to their project folder first before opening up Pro. And let's make sure that you have these green check boxes throughout all of your folders. And if I open this one up, this green check mark means it's okay as well. I like this one that's filled in, and I've researched what this means and with Microsoft, and I can't seem to kind of figure out what they're saying here. But we do, if you have this check mark with the white circle around it, you should be fine as well. The important thing is, and this really is very important, is that you don't have those blue clouds, because if you try and open up your project by double clicking here and your data is all still up in the cloud, the program won't be able to work with that, okay? So if you're on a school computer and you just synced your OneDrive, make sure you come to the root of your project and right click and choose always keep on this device, okay? Now remember, the school computers clean themselves out at the end of each day. And so when you close out of your project, make sure you come back here and you have all of these check marks, and you don't have those blue arrows that are circling, okay? Because then it will mean that all your data is safely backed up in the cloud, okay? And then even if they wipe out the drive, which they will, you can just re-download it when you get on another computer, okay? So that's very important, so you can get started off on the right foot. So once you have all of that taken care of, double click on your project to open the software. And we should be looking at these two tabs up here when we did our elevation maps, okay? So let's start with a fresh map, because today we're going to work on hydrology, okay? And we're going to start with the Texas base, and we're going to right click on it and copy, and then come up here to maps, and you can just do Control V to paste, okay? Now remember, the very first thing you want to do, and make sure you do this immediately so you don't forget, is to put in the name of the map. Okay, so we're just going to call this one simply hydrology. And now we need to open that map up, okay? So let's close out of our elevation map. And let's double click on hydrology. Okay, and then we have all of those base files that we were working with if we need them. Okay, now let's do the same thing with our layout. Okay, so let's come down here to layout, and here's our Texas base layout. So let's just do a Control C, come up here and Control V to make a copy of that. And again, we're going to call this hydrology. Okay. And now we're going to double click on that to open it. And we have our nice layout, our guidelines, and you can close out of the elevation layout. Okay, now let's go to our map frame and unlock it. And so this map frame And I want to rename this for you guys and myself because this can get a little confusing with these three different icons here. So let's call this simply the default name, map frame, okay? And then we need to tell the map frame what map it is referencing. And in this case, it's correctly referencing our Texas base, but we made a copy of that base because we are going to work with it and change it. And that copy was hydrology. So we're going to click on that. And now it's going to be referencing the hydrology map. Okay. So far, so good. Now, let's go to our workbench, I like to call it, and that's really the map area. And we can turn off the terrain, okay? And we need to first, and this is almost always your first step in map building, is to gather your data, okay? Now, hydrology is very complex, okay? And in the portal, there is a layer that you can stream in. It's called the National Hydrography Data Set, okay? However, it is an enormous layer. It's an enormous amount of data that we're bringing in, and then because it's for the entire country, and then also it's harder to symbolize and work with layers that you're streaming in. So we want to get this data set, but just for the state of Texas, and we want it on our in our project folder, not streaming in over the internet. So your number one source for GIS data, especially at this stage, while you're learning the basics, is going to always be the National Map Viewer, okay? Or the National Map, that's what TNM stands for, download. This is just a super fantastic resource for all of these types of data sets. Boundaries, elevation, hydrography, that's what we're doing today. Name, structures, okay, woodland tint. Really, the real basics of natural resources are all contained in here. So we want to get the hydrography set for Texas. So let's go here and click on this fella, okay? And we're going to get this National Hydrography. We don't need the plus high resolution because then that just gets to be too much, even if we download it. So click on this second option, okay? And then you're going to click on state, okay? And the best way to do this is to zoom all the way into Texas and then not have any other states appearing in your boundaries. And that way it will only return the data set for Texas. Otherwise, you'll get one for every state in the country if you're zoomed all the way out. Okay, so come back up here and hit search products. And boom. There it is, okay? And it's in that file geodatabase format, which we want, okay? And the metadata is simply data about, that's what meta means, about data, okay? So it's kind of like when you take a picture with your cell phone, the data are all of the millions of pixels that your phone just created by you snapping that image. But Apple or Google or Samsung also includes extremely helpful data about that data, about all of those pixels, such as the date and the time the picture was taken, where it was taken, okay, so those type of things, all right? And so this metadata, once you get further into your GIS practice, it's a very, very good idea to read these summaries so you truly understand the data set that you're working with, okay? And they also give you a thumbnail of all of the features contained in the set, so you can see how dense the data is. Okay, so let's go back to our TNM and then simply hit download link, and a zipped file will download, okay? And it's gonna take some time. It's over a gigabyte. So I'm gonna push pause and then I will see you in a sec. Okay, so when your zip folder has downloaded, right click on it and extract all, okay? And you could just extract it here. Now, always make sure you clean up your garbage right away, so the zipped file is no longer needed, so just delete that. And then I always like to click in here because oftentimes there's going to be a folder within a folder, and mine is empty because I've already done this process before. But grab what's inside of the folder, okay? That way you don't have to click through too many different things. And then go to your project, okay? And go to your hydrography folder and paste it in here. And it should look like that. Okay. I'm going to close out of this Explorer window and I am going to head back into Pro, all right? And let's go to our catalog project and open up that folder, okay? And go to, so it should be in hydrography. Now, if you don't see this, come up here and just refresh your folders, okay? You may have to do that. All right, so let's open up this geodatabase, and these are clipping layers that they give you. Hydrography is what we're after. Okay. Now there's a lot in here. Okay. So we're gonna just take this one step at a time. And the first thing we are going to do, and this is what makes these data sets so great rather than the ones you stream in from online, is that your rivers are actually polygons, okay? So remember, let me turn on boundaries here. Okay, so these are polygon features. They close in upon themselves, all right? And you can see that icon there, it's a polygon, all right? And then you also have your line features, and notice the icon there, okay? And then finally, you have your point features, okay? So I think you understand the difference between the three of these. And these are really your three flavors, I guess you could call them, of feature classes that you will be working with in GIS. Now, the reason why I really like this rivers being in a polygon format is that's really the way rivers should be, because they expand and then they contract, and they're very organic, and representing them with a single line is not effective. And so let's pull this over here and see what our rivers look like. So let's put it all the way at the top, even above boundaries. Okay, and let's turn off boundaries for a bit so we can just see what we're working with. Okay, so you can see this is the Red River, the border with Texas and Oklahoma. And then you can see, well, it's hard to see. So let's work with that first, because whenever you get you add a new data set, you really want to analyze it before you start doing different things. So right click on your layer and come to symbology, And what we're going to do is let's come here to more, and we're going to format all of these symbols at once because we want to take off this line weight, all right? That is really detracting from the visibility. Okay. Now, if we open up our layer, we're going to see there's all kinds of things in here related to hydrography in Texas. So if you have a job in Texas or any state, you'll be able to find this data for any state. Look at the different ways you can analyze. You could very quickly make a selection of all the bridges, okay, and export them if you needed to do a map analysis on the bridges or the lock chambers in your AOI, okay? What we want to do here is an analysis of the streams and their inundation areas, okay? So the streams are these guys here, okay? That's pretty obvious. And then the inundation areas, anytime you see this, you know you're dealing with a reservoir. This is a very distinctive shape that when the Corps of Engineers creates a dam, okay, in a river, a reservoir forms behind it, and in periods of flooding, these are areas that will be inundated. Okay, so we want to keep that as part of our stream. All right, so we want inundation area. So let's just come over here to the symbology area, and let's click on inundation area. Okay, and let's make that into this larkspur blue. Okay, great. Now it's a lot easier to see. Okay, let's go back here. Okay, and let's go to stream river, and let's make that larkspur blue as well. Okay, now you're starting to see these guys. Okay, and you see they're polygons, they're not lines, and that's the type of data set you want when you're doing serious work with rivers and streams. And that is something I promise you guys will be working with a lot, because water is becoming such a precious resource, and it's going to be a massive issue throughout your careers. Okay, so the last one we're going to symbolize to see what we have is called submerged stream. Okay, and that just connects these streams together in certain areas, which is nice, and it'll fill in the gaps for us. Okay, so why don't we create a separate feature class of just these three of the features with these attributes. Okay, sorry, wasn't sure how to say that. All right, so what we're going to do here is right click on the layer, and we're going to go to attribute table. Okay, and we're going to select all of the features that have these three attributes. Now remember, I was saying, like, say you wanted to create a feature class of just the dam weirs or just the bridges. You could easily do that following this same method. Okay, in this case we're actually going to select all features that have any one of these attributes. Okay, so let's click on select by attributes. Okay, so with this select by attributes pane, what we can do is tell the software which features to select. Okay, and we're going to use a column or an attribute called f type. and that's for feature type. And you'll see this in different types of data sets from the USGS. They'll have this F type for roads and highways, and it's very handy because they have a consistent way of naming features, okay? And it's a great way to be able to select all of the features that have that characteristic, such as canal ditch, and you can see all the other ones here. Okay, so what we're gonna do is, let me clear out of that, and let me see my code is empty. Okay, so what we're gonna tell the software is select the field F type, okay, and we need to say includes the values of, let's just go down our order here. So let's start with inundation area, okay, so that's right here, okay, and then we have stream river, okay, and these aren't in alphabetical order, so just take your time. And then the last one we have is submerged stream, okay, and that's up there at the top. Okay, so let's hit OK, and I want you to click on this SQL button to check your code. Okay, we're basically writing code at this point, and it's just a simple code expression. Okay, F type includes, and these three values. Okay, so hit apply, and you should see all of those features light up in that cyan color on your map. Okay, so let's close out of here and come to our NHD area, right click, go to data, and we're going to export these features. However, I want us to put these features, okay, into our, sorry, not that one, into our Texas NRM data, because that way you can use them in the future, okay? So let's click on that, okay, and we're going to name this NHD underscore rivers. Let's just do TX rivers. Okay, and it's a much better data set than that US stream one. Okay, so let's click save, and let's make sure it is going to that. Okay, good. So that's the name of our new feature class, okay? And then you can see it's going into our Texas NRM geodatabase. So you can have that database for you for any future projects. Okay, so let's click OK to get the operation started. Okay, great. So now let's deselect here, and this, for some reason, we don't have all of this. Don't worry, we didn't export everything. So click on this NHD area and click remove. And then let's just remove this one as well, and we'll drag it back in. Oh, not that one. So let's go up to our geodatabase, and now we have the should have been in there. Okay, and so it looks a bit messy. It's hard to figure out what's going on. So let's turn off our boundaries group, okay? And let's zoom in here and see what we have. Well, it's really hard to tell what we have because these are finely articulated features, and just that slight stroke on the border is causing this gray blob to appear around the feature. So let's fix that by right-clicking on NHD area and going to symbology. Okay, and what we're going to do here is, first I want to explain that there's different ways to symbolize a layer or a feature class. Those are really the same thing, okay? Well, not exactly, because terrain could be a layer, and that's not a feature class, it's a raster layer. So let's just refer to these polygon, line, and point feature classes as feature class, just to stay clear with ourselves. So what I want to get across to you is there's multiple different ways that you can depict your data visually on the screen. Okay, right now the software has chosen by default that we symbolize it with unique values using this field, okay, called f-type. So let's look at what's going on under the trunk. Let's right click on our layer and open up attribute table. Okay, and these are all the attributes for our features. Okay, our features are simply these numbers. Okay, every number is an individual feature, and we have 13,302 features here, but every one of them is different, and they all have a different set of attributes. Okay, if only where they're located. So each one of these is completely unique. Now this f-type is specific to these USGS feature classes because it's their industry standard way of naming certain features. And you'll see this like in highway data sets, soils, the USDA has their own codes. You can see codes over here for all the different types of soils. And so this is a powerful way to differentiate between what your features are, because you can see the really big categories here are included in the f-type. Okay, you have submerged streams, you have canal ditches, bridges, okay, flumes, and the software knows that 90% of people are going to want to see these features in different colors first, so at least they know what they're working with and what each one of these different features looks like. But as I said, we can't really see these with that gray stroke. So let's come over here, and we are going to go down to more, and we are going to choose format all symbols, and we're going to take that outline width off, and then under outline color we're going to change that to no color just to be safe. Now a line through a box indicates that there's multiple colors, okay, for the features, okay, and so you can't change that here. Okay, so let's use this arrow to go back to our primary symbol pane. Okay, and now we're starting to see, okay, it's still difficult to see, but what we can determine is, okay, what are these areas here? Okay, because this seems like it would be a reservoir. Okay, anytime you see that flat line, you're in front of a water body. 90% of the time that's a dam built by the United States Army Corps of Engineers, and this would be a reservoir. So this color looks like inundation area, and this would be the areas around the reservoir that would flood in the event of high rains. So we can just click on that and then right click and go to attributes, and sure enough, you see inundation area. And we want to create a separate feature class of just the inundation area, okay? So what we're going to do is come down here to our attribute table. And we're going to select by attributes, okay? Let me take that off. Okay, now I'm sorry, before we do this, all right, you may be encountering trouble. I'd like everyone to do this because this can really, be a frustrating situation if you don't. Okay, so OneDrive has a hard time syncing these files, these GIS files, when we are doing geoprocessing operations like we're about to do, okay? So before you begin any heavy duty editing, I'm not talking about symbology, but I'm talking about actually editing. And you may see this already, I want you to come over here, and nothing's broken or anything like that. It's just gonna help things roll smoother. Come over here and pause syncing for 2 hours, okay? Now, what's critical is that we save our work often, which we will do, but also that after we're done and we close out of the program, we have to come back to OneDrive and resume syncing. So think of that when you click resume syncing, think of that as if you were putting a thumb drive into your computer to save all of your work after you were finished. The only difference is there's no danger of losing this OneDrive or it getting broken because it's up in the cloud, okay? And that's, one of the great things about using the cloud, but sometimes you just have to work with it in certain ways like that. Okay, so back to select by attributes. Let me get rid of that. Okay, and that's empty. Okay, so we want to have a new selection type. Okay, and the field we're going to select is this F type. Okay, and the F, these aren't numbers, so we can't use is equal to. We want to include values. Okay, so includes the value of, what did we call this, inundation area. Okay, so these aren't alphabetized, so it's down here, 403. And what we're really doing here is we're writing SQL code to tell the computer how to perform this operation. So your code should look like this, and translated it would simply mean feature type includes inundation area, which is number 403. Okay, so let's pull this aside. There we go. And let's hit apply, and boom, you can see it grabbed all of those inundation areas. Okay, so click OK. All right, now we are going to export these inundation areas into we're not going to put it into our default geodatabase. I'd like us to put it into our Texas NRM data so that you can have this in the future. Hopefully we'll be building up a nice collection of data for you that you can use in other projects if you need to. All right, so let's come to the NHD area, right click, go down to data, and we're gonna export these features, okay? And we need to tell it to go to Texas NRM data, okay? So click on the browse folder, and up here go to databases and click on Texas NRM, And now we're going to name this layer NHD so we know where it came from. National Hydrography Data Set. TX inundation areas. Remember, no spaces. Okay, that's not too many letters. Okay, now this is important. Okay, if we don't do this, we're still going to have all of these different categories, because these F types are, it's just a different type of creating a feature class. And so what we need to do is open up the fields here. Okay, and under F type, we need to get rid of that. Okay, so just click remove. We don't want to include that because we only have one F type, and it's the inundation areas, and that's all we need. Okay, so let's click OK. And there we go. All right, so now let's close out of this. Let's turn this layer off. Don't remove it. And now let's symbolize our inundation areas just by clicking on this. We don't want any stroke. Never a good idea with your water features and polygons. Okay, and then of course we're not going to want that green. So let's choose a lighter blue, because this isn't going to be underwater all the time. Let's start with this solidite blue, and we may change that later. Okay, but for now, this is the first part of our lab. This is the end of mini section 1, and I hope you were taking good notes and screenshots. And make sure at your last screenshot you zoom into one of these features so that I can see how you did, and have this layer opened up so that I can see there's only one feature type in there for us to symbolize. Okay, great. I'll see you in the next video.